The following podcast is intended only for listeners who are intent on growing the business. Welcome to Innovate Marketing, where we are bringing you interviews with the brands, the influencers, and the nonprofits that are making waves and growing business. We are brought to you by MyPodcast.Media. MyPodcast.Media produces high-quality podcasts that authentically connect you to your ideal audience. And now, I'd like to introduce you to your host for Innovate Marketing, Sherry Peak.
Hello, my name is Sherry Peak, and welcome to Innovate Marketing Podcast. And today we have a very special guest, and it is the executive producer, Shawn Neal. And today we're going to speak with Shawn, and we're going to find out what his vision is for the podcast and how he hopes to help you all benefit from the information shared with the guests that we have scheduled throughout our time together. So please join me in welcoming Shawn. Hey, Shawn, how are you today?
Hey, Sherry, I am doing fantastic. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here today. I'm doing great, and thank you for asking. So, Shawn, this is such an exciting opportunity to be on this podcast, to join you and many special guests to learn from some of the best and brightest individuals who will share with us their experience and knowledge as it relates to marketing. So, Shawn, can you tell me what was the vision for the podcast that you had?
Oh, yeah. It's so, really when you look at the experience that others have had, and I know that, through my lifetime of, being a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, there's so many times when I have realized that I could have benefited from someone else's experience from, if someone would have just said, don't do that, you're going to save yourself a lot of time or a lot of money if you don't do it that way and try this instead. And so as we were talking about, what do we launch as a podcast? It really made sense for us to talk about those things because this is, again, we're in the world of podcasting. It's all about marketing and branding. That's what we're here for. So why not learn from the experience of others? And that was the vision behind this. Let's bring people in who we know are successful, who have done it, who have run the trials, the tribulations, and they've come out the other side and they can share that with us. And so at the end of the day, I'm just hopeful that every single person that tunes into this show every week will get some valuable knowledge. They'll get some things that they can walk away with and implement right then and there. And at the end of the day, they've got you, Sherry. So they're going to be entertained. They're going to enjoy the experience. It's going to be a great 30 minutes to spend each week.
So it sounds like we're not just going to be learning, but we're going to be having some fun while learning. And that's always great, right?
Absolutely. I'm excited about that.
Good. I am too. And I hope everyone listening will be just as excited as we are, because this really gives us an opportunity to sit down. The world has changed so much since we've, kind of came through the pandemic. And there are many questions around marketing. How do I do it? What should I do? And I know podcasting is a trending topic, and we do see a lot of people do it. So this is a great way that you can put that information out so that people could glean from it and build their businesses or their personal brand as they envision.
Yeah. One of the things, and I'm glad you mentioned the pandemic, because one of the things that I often talk to people about is the change that happened during 2020. A great way to look at it was that when March of 2020 hit and people found themselves at home, some, without work, some with work, but their work method and mode changed, we saw an influx of podcasters. We saw people spending $200 or $300 getting a microphone and an audio interface and getting a hold of a couple of their friends saying, would you be my guest? And ta-da, they've got a podcast. And so this influx of podcasters in the market really drew attention to what podcasting was and how everybody can become empowered. On the other side of it, it did create a lot of noise in the space. And what we found in 2 years now, almost 3, is that, a lot of the hobbyists have kind of filtered out because, they had their run, they enjoyed it, had some success, and then life went on. And those that were very serious about building their brand found ways to get in there and to capture an audience. and to build brand loyalty, to content market their way into a client. And those are people that have created some amazing podcasts that you probably listen to this very day. So, the pandemic was full of a lot of lessons as we walk onto the other side of it.
Now, you mentioned content marketing. So, what type of topics using the podcast will you focus on when delivering the content marketing?
Oh, yeah. So what I really love is that I have had the fortune and the opportunity and the blessing to meet some amazingly talented people along the way of my career, people that have moved me. And I know that when I speak to them, that a lot of what I glean from them is just from keeping my own mouth quiet and listening. And so when I look at, the content marketing piece of what we're doing here, it's about sharing that. It's about trying to share with the world the things that I have been able to be fortunate enough to experience with these folks and with people like them, that we can then bring our own audience in here, and we can create a space for all of the marketers and branders and people that are growing businesses, because we're giving you exactly the things that are going to be valuable to you in your day-to-day work.
Isn't it something how marketing has changed over the years? I work in an area where we would hire someone, a marketing company, to do a lot of the marketing that we needed to promote our business, the programs and services that we would offer. But it has moved so far from that now. And that's where this podcast come in, right?
Oh, yeah. If you think about it, I remember the good old days of guerrilla marketing. And I know you know what I'm talking about. So,
Yes.
it's how many flyers do we print up? And, how many doors can we hang these flyers on? And at the end of the day, will we see those flyers come back through our door and represent dollars in our cash register? And now everything is social. It's, it's Facebook, it's Twitter, it's Instagram. And I think this is the important piece. We used to think in volume. When Facebook first entered the market, I saw so many businesses that said, I want to billboard advertise on Facebook. So I'm going to create a Facebook page or profile for my business. And I'm just going to every day, here are my offers for the day. Here's why you should come to my business. Here's da-da-da-da-da. And what we learned is that it's not about the quantity. It's about the quality of connections that you make in the space today. Whereas before it was, can I get it in front of 10,000 eyes? Now it's, can I get it in front of, the 10,000 eyes that matter to my brand, the 10,000 eyes that are going to pay attention, because 10,000 people that pay attention to your brand are so much more valuable than a million people that don't and just see and hear from you every day.
That's a really good perspective on things. And it's very true and very real today. And it just makes me think about, how many people are interested in this area that we're speaking about, and all the different kind of conversations you can have around content marketing, all kind of topics that you can talk about within this space. Can you share a little bit, Shawn, about the kind of conversations that we hope to have with individuals?
Oh, yeah. I want everyone in the audience to hear what makes these people tick. What is it that they're doing differently? Hence the name Innovate Marketing. What is it that they're doing differently, that they're innovating, and how are they being creative in their space? And how are they looking at the world? There's that old saying, think outside of the box. And some people think without a box. And I love to pick the brains of people who don't have a box in their vision. Those are some of the most amazing people. So those are some of the things that I think you'll hear, and you're going to hear how they think. And I encourage you as a listener to pay attention to that and try to walk away and say, how can I take this person's thought process, this philosophy, into my daily business, into my daily philosophy of life? And I think it'll be an amazing experience for everybody.
Podcasting, not just for marketing, you talked about walking away. So we just don't want people to listen to the podcast, but we want them to be able to gain valuable information. And that brings me back just to education as well. We are learning differently as well. And podcasts have sat in that area. I know for me, Shawn, I don't have a lot of time to sit and watch TV or enjoy movies or things like that, or even some of the videos that are being posted, but I'm in my car a lot, or I'm in a space where I don't have video option, but I have the ability to listen and learn, to listen and grow. And so with that, What do you expect, or what would you hope that the listeners would be learning from those guests that come in, and how can they use the information they learned and apply it to their business?
Yeah, in my experience of talking to people, it has been repeatedly said to me that, you can gain all of the education that you want. We've got so many resources nowadays with Google and the internet and da 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 da. But if you don't do anything with that, then you've gained very little. And so what I think this becomes an opportunity for each one of us. And the opportunity is to say, we have some of the greatest minds coming into this program. What do we do to shift our own mindset from a space of maybe, being stuck or being uncertain of, like we said, that out of the box thinking, to in motion thinking? And how do we motivate ourselves? How do we motivate our teams? How do we create new ways of doing things? And I really think that's a huge piece of this component as we look at it. And we're blessed. I mean, this some of the guests that we have lined up, everybody's going to benefit from this. I'm excited to hear the interviews that you do. For my own personal reasons, just to learn and to take note of what's happening, and for us to come to the table as a creative team and say, how do we implement what we're learning from our own guests?
I love that. And so that's exactly what I'm interested in too, is learning from the guests. I've seen the lineup and had some conversation, and they sound like phenomenal individuals in their line of work. So Shawn, knowing what the content that will be coming forward from the guests, who would you say is the intended target for the topics that will be discussed? Who do you hope to reach or help with the podcast guests and their conversations that we'll have together?
Yeah. So this is, if you're in marketing, if you are in branding, if you are the founder or executive in a corporation, and at the bottom line end of the day, words that matter to you equate something along the lines of business growth, this is your podcast.
This is their
Plain
podcast. This is their podcast, Shawn.
Absolutely.
Sounds like a good thing. So, Shawn, let's talk about MyPodcast.Media. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So MyPodcast.Media is very simply a production hub for podcasts. We create podcasts for brands, for influencers, and for nonprofits, doing exactly what we're talking about here, reaching our audience, sharing valuable content, whether that be in story form, whether that be in interview form, whether it be entertainment. We connect our clients to their audience and build their brand accordingly, so that they, at the end of the day, have excited, engaged audiences, fans that want to engage and buy from them. And that's what MyPodcast.Media does. And we love doing it.
In addition to the conversations we'll have with guests that come to Innovate Marketing podcast, there's also going to be the Innovate Marketing Bizcast. So can you share a little bit about that? Because this time together is going to be well spent with a lot of different things for people to engage in conversation as well as learning.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to say, behind the scenes, some collaborations brought this about. We are going to have a daily version. So this version that we're on with you, Sherry, is once a week, every Monday. And then a daily version that's a 5-minute what's happening in the world of marketing, branding, and business growth. And that's going to be featured by Benny Pacala from Birdwell Solutions. And so he will be bringing you some amazing quick tidbits of news and stories, things that are trending, things that you should know about, that you should be talking with your team, your colleagues about. And every day, it's a 5-minute listen, and you walk away with some quick things that you know are going to be imperative to how you're doing business. So that is a huge addition. And it's also something that, as we look at how do we give back to the community in a bigger way, it's about this collaborative efforts between businesses, between people that make things bigger than just us. And that's really important here.
I love that, because we all working together can make things better. That might be a tagline, huh?
Absolutely. I like it.
Just came to mind because I could really see that. And what's being offered through Innovate Marketing Podcast it's going to offer that. It's going to offer a place for people to come in. Something that, look, it's going to be how long approximately, Shawn? So if they want to set aside time, you don't have to schedule all day to join us. You'll be able to plug in once a week. You'll be able to spend a good amount of time for you to learn and then to take some of those tools back and begin to explore how you incorporate those into your daily lives, branding, marketing, business endeavors, or whatever is that you desire. So, Shawn, as we close in this conversation together, what would you say to individuals who are on the cusp of perhaps considering a podcast or using it for content marketing? How would you encourage them to begin that road to using this platform to promote themselves or their businesses?
Oh, it's a great question. Probably the best piece of advice I can give is to be mindful of why you're doing it. Be mindful of why you're doing it. And let me expand on that. When we really started to use social media for business, now I'm talking way back in the day of MySpace.
Oh, wow.
And going way back, the idea was that everybody's doing it. I have to be on there as well. And what we quickly learned as business owners, as companies and brands, is that being on there just for the sake of being there is not good. It's a waste of time. So what I would really encourage you to do is to be mindful, be thoughtful about why you're there in the space, what you hope to accomplish, what are those KPIs, what equates success in a podcast for you. And then, and we talk about this internally, Sherry, you know this, reverse engineer to get there.
Yes.
Build the podcast to get to those goals. Don't just create it because you think you have to be in the space.
And if individuals are considering that and they need maybe some assistance in getting there, you can offer them services through MyPodcast.
We would be happy to help.
.media. Listen, content marketing, MyPodcast.Media. Well, Shawn, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to share with us today. And I want to applaud you on the creation of the Innovate Marketing podcast, something that I believe in will be a great tool to help individuals as they journey through using the podcast and content marketing. But before we close out, Shawn, are there any final thoughts you'd like to share with our listening audience today?
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that has fueled me for many years is from Think and Grow Rich, the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And, there is a daily statement that they talk about putting out there. Write it down. This is my goal. And so in the book, it looks something like, by this date, I will accumulate this amount of money through providing these services for individuals at the highest quality I can. And I absolutely recommend that every single person do that. Now, you don't have to do it, with your business goals. This can be your personal goals. This can be something about your relationship that you want to focus on. Put those down on paper, write those down, and once in the morning and once in the evening, read that aloud. Not because it's a magic woohoo, but read it aloud because what it does is it reminds you every time you read it that that's what your focus is going to be today. That's why you do what you do and you stay focused that way. That would be my piece of advice. This week's featured nonprofit is the Anderson Impact Center.
My name is Sherry P., Executive Director at the Anderson Impact Center. We offer workforce development, senior citizen, and early childhood support services. We work with a broad range of neighbors, partners, and leaders who help make our work possible. The Anderson Impact Center welcomes volunteers and donations to help further the vision of creating a healthier and happier community. For more information on the Anderson Impact Center, visit our website at www.theandersonimpactcenter.org, like our Anderson Impact Center Facebook page, or call our office at 765-356-9497.
That brings us to the close of this edition of Innovate Marketing. We're glad you tuned in. Innovate Marketing is brought to you by MyPodcast.Media. MyPodcast.Media produces podcasts for brands, influencers, and nonprofits. Find us online at MyPodcast.Media. Your producer for Innovate Marketing is Beth Freed. Executive producer, Shawn Neal. And your host is Sherry Peak. We'll see you next time. Be sure to tune in.